We're parked right in front of the 16-unit building that he's got under contract.
We picked it up at a purchase price of $1.4 million, which is $87,500 a door.
Starting to hire people to basically help us find properties. We do a lot of off-market stuff, but I'm still very active in that. I do have an in-house property manager now, somebody that we did hire to look after the properties. But yeah, so just don't give up after you take a beating or lose money on a property. Like me and Vanessa, going back to what I just said, like we laugh and we're like, we probably should have quit a long time ago, but it's good that we didn't, because now it got us to where we are.
What is up, YouTube? Matt McKeever here, and in today's video we catch up with Fraser Nybo and discuss how are things going on the path to a 100-unit portfolio. So last time he was on the channel, he shared with us one of his goals and was laying out some of the milestones, and so I thought it'd be great to check in with him, because I'm pretty sure that was like just pre-COVID maybe last time we checked in, or was right after COVID had started, right around that time. So that was definitely a roller coaster for a lot of real estate investors, and it'll be interesting to see where Fraser's at. Let's jump into it. What is up, YouTube? Matt McKeever here, and we're catching up with Fraser Nybo in Saskatchewan. Hey, Fraser, how's it going?
Not too bad, not too bad. How have you been, Matt?
Doing well. So before we jump into kind of what's going on in your world today, do you mind giving the viewers maybe just a quick catch up on the last time you were on the channel, roughly what was going on in your world then?
Yeah, so last time I did a video with you guys, have to think where we were. I think we had the apartment block, that 16 unit. We bought that in late 2019. And then, yeah, we had a third-party property management company on it, taking care of it. And that was actually a term in the conditions, and that's a good lesson in there. I think I've said that before. But yeah, and then we were basically just trying to get out of that contract because their spending was outrageous. And then, yeah, just optimizing all the properties and getting a good foothold. That was our first 16 unit. So that's kind of where we were.
Nice. And then as far as like your overall portfolio, do you remember roughly what did it look like back then at 2019?
Yeah, so 2019. I think we did a video in 2022, but
oh,
yeah,
did we? Okay.
Yeah. And it was we had that 16 unit, and then just our single family rentals, and I think we had a few flips on the go at that time also. And all then right. actually I just wholesaled my first property then, and it was that $40,000 profit in 11 days.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So.
All right. And then, so where do things stand today now that, we're kind of a year into COVID, everyone's kind of figured, or hopefully most people have figured out how to make their business, or at least their real estate business, work at this point. How have things changed for you, and what's on the horizon?
Yeah, so we kind of shifted gears a little bit we have multiple facets of the business. We have the flipping side of the business, we have the apartment block side of the business, and then we have all this other stuff kind of on the side. And it's like off-market acquisitions and deal finding and all that stuff. So on the flipping side of the business, we actually shifted gears a little bit. We started going, so I always had this theory that basically we were always doing these 1,000 square foot homes, and we were spending anywhere from $60,000 to 105,000 sometimes on like 100-year-old homes, right? So I always was wondering, and I was always watching the numbers to see, like, say you base everything on a square foot basis is one of the metrics that I use. It just makes sense that if you go into a larger property, say 2,000 square foot or 3,000 square foot, then you already have the trades in there. So labor costs should come down, but your material cost is the only big variable, not even variable, but that's the one that'll rise the most in there. But so if you're doing a 1,000 square foot house for, say, $70 a square foot, mid-grade reno, you should be able to do a 3,000 square foot home for like $50 a square foot or $45 a square foot. And that was always kind of my theory. So we actually found a good property to test this out on. It was actually just about a 3,000 square foot home. And we bought it. We bought it for $342,000. And then we put a lot of money into it because we went higher end on it than we normally would have. But it basically proved that theory right. And it worked out really well. We actually did renderings on the property, and we listed it. We didn't even have, I think we just had drywall done. We didn't even have the flooring down, and we sold it off market, and the market right now is nuts, as you guys probably can attest to. But there was a lot of not controversy, but just I had a lot of I talked with a lot of agents, right? I had agents walking through the house, just friends and people I know, and most of them were saying like, you can't list this thing over 550,000. Like that's your cap. But I've been watching this area for about quite a few years now, and I've been seeing properties come and go, less square footage, and not designer grade. Like my wife, she's an interior designer too. We have that side of the business also, and like they're going for like 620. So I ended up listing this thing for 640, and I sold it at we sold it at 620. But it just goes to show like you really need to know your numbers. You can't trust people. I'm sure I've left so much money on the table over the years just because I really trusted the agent and like put too much faith in them. And I'm not saying anything against agents or anything like that, but I'm just saying you have to do your own due diligence. So with that, it's really unique. Actually going into the higher end flips, we're actually picking up a whole new clientele. And we like, I've been running ads through the whole process, like follow along this flip. This is what we do. And we have a lot of people approaching us because we have the investment side plus the design and construction side. Now they're like, well, can you help us find a house? If we sift through like 20 houses with our agents and find 2 or 3 good houses, can you walk through those 3 houses with us, give us some good layouts, and then we'll buy it and you guys do the renovation in it. And then because we do what we do, like we buy houses ourselves. So I tell people like, we can be really flexible. If you want us to buy it, you want us to like do it as a flip and sell it to you. Obviously the contracts have to be solid, but like we can do it pretty much whichever way you like. So really unique opportunities coming out of it. And I think it'll be a very good side, or like profitable side to the business, I guess.
And so do you mind breaking down for us, what's the overall like different business streams, I guess, and how much time and energy are you spending in each of them, or how do you kind of view your overall operations?
That's awesome that you asked that. Actually, I was going to go into that. So we went through a big change in our business here this last year also. I don't know if you remember, our names were YXL. Yep. YXL, Homes by YXL, YXL Real Estate Investments, YXL Holdings, that was the corporate structure. And that was YXE Airport. And then my wife is from Montreal, so YUL, so YXL. And then it's funny too, it's actually like Sioux Lookout Airport or something like that. So, but anyways, we were having problems with that. We had lawyers getting properties, like they were putting going to put properties in the wrong corporations and stuff like that. And obviously I would always catch it and say, no, this one's got to go here, this one's got to go there. But so we decided to differentiate the names a little bit, change it up, and just clarify things a little bit. So we actually had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 corporations at the time. And like one was a design company, it was called Magdalena Designs. And then we had Homes by YXL, and that was the flipping division. And like basically what we ended up doing in this big name change and corporate cleanup was we rolled those 2 companies together. So the design company and the flipping company are now one. It's Designs by Vanessa, and Vanessa is the face of that company. When we do all of our marketing, when we do all of our just everything with that, Vanessa is the face of that company. So what we're trying to do is get her into high-end renovations, high-end client renovations, $500,000, $700,000, and she takes majority of the energy on that. So on the flipping. And before even kind of moving on from that, Fraser, because I'm sure a lot of people will, when we start to, there's I guess a niche or a sub niche of my audience that loves talking corporate structure or understanding kind of the thought process or logic behind those things. So do you mind even explaining just how you finally decided that? Was it sitting down with your accountant, your lawyer, accountant and lawyer? Was it just something you guys decided was right for you? It was a combination. It was a combination of headaches that we kept running into, and then we have to find a solution to it, obviously. Otherwise, you're just going to keep running into it. So it was talking with accountants, lawyers, and then it was mostly, like most of it was us though, just sitting down and really figuring out what direction we want to go, what we need to do to get there, and how to best set it up. And then we talked to the lawyers about how to like mitigate risk as much as possible and taxes and everything like that. Gotcha. Awesome. Yeah. But yeah, so then basically on the flipping side of the business, my role is, so Designs by Vanessa is one of the companies. And my role in that is basically I find the flip properties, I put the investors on that flip property, I partner them together, and I push it off to Vanessa. Vanessa works hand in hand with the trades. She does all the drawings. Like with interior design, she doesn't just like pick pillows and stuff like that. She like drafts in AutoCAD and like has the renderings and all that stuff. So with her doing majority of the work on that, I can move back and I can just monitor the financials now on that property. And that allows me to free up my time to go work on apartments or other sides of the business or find other flips. So that's how that works for the flipping company. And then when you move over to the apartment company, we're starting to hire people to basically help us find properties. We do a lot of off-market stuff, but I'm still very active in that. I do have an in-house property manager now, somebody that we did hire to look after the properties. And that's always a work in progress, as you guys know. But I'm still pretty involved in the actual management. I know, like, to put it into perspective, I know who a few of the tenants are in the building. They think I'm just like a maintenance guy. They don't know that I own the property. I don't necessarily want them having my phone number. But I'm still fairly active in that just because we're in heavy acquisition mode on the apartment side. I think that's where the long-term growth is, as everybody does that gets into apartments. They see the potential there. So it's really good. We have the active side of the business from a CRA standpoint, and then we have the more passive side for the apartments, and that's the long-term well.
Awesome. And then do you mind breaking down for people at home, is there a certain type of profile of multifamily or apartment building you're targeting, or is everything free game?
Honestly, that's what I say to people when it comes to single family and apartment blocks. I'll buy anything if it's the right price. But what I do focus on is B and C class properties with the value add. I'm actually starting to get away from the C class properties. I do have one built, that 16 unit, it's in a C class area, and it's good. But it's going back to the direction that we want to go in the company that we want to build. We want B-class buildings and eventually get into A-class properties. I don't know if we can do that in our market in Saskatoon, but like B-class properties, and actually start marketing a place for people to rent where they want to rent. And there's amenities and like we can throw whatever in, and like with the design aspect of it, it's endless too, you know. If they want to do a feature wall, we can throw in like a free coat of paint on move-in and just little stuff like that to help them make it home, to keep that tenant longer. Like they'll probably stay a long time. But like it's proven that tenants will stay a longer time when they're happy and they actually make it their home. So basically what we want to do with that is create almost a brand that people want to rent from, and then essentially have a backlog of people always waiting to get into our properties. And we're going to do that with B-class value add. So then from a financial standpoint, the B-class properties are really good for that because they need the rentals anyway. You know, like I'm looking, they're all 1970s, 1980s buildings is specifically what we're targeting. Most of them that I walk through are still original or fairly close to it. So there's a lot of renovations that can be done. And then it just goes on to the price point. What can you end up purchasing it for? So I'm really crunching the numbers on that and seeing like what our maximum prices are. And like when you boil it down and you bring management in-house and you have the construction side of the business, you can pay a little bit more than not what like retail buyers will pay for, but like really other savvy investors, they always have like 93,000 a door, say, or maximum 95,000 a door, say, for a B class in Saskatoon, just a theoretical number. And maybe I can pay 98 or 100,000 a door just because I can do those rentals a lot cheaper, you know, and I don't have to pay 20,000 a year in management or whatever the number may be, or 15,000 a year in management. So that's basically what we're looking at with that.
And then how do you approach acquisitions these days, Fraser? Is it just whenever an opportunity comes up? Do you set like goals, milestones, reverse engineer? How do you approach and decide like what does the next year look like for you guys?
Yeah, so I do run out projections. I run out projections on all of our buildings and all of our properties. And so are you talking from like strictly apartment blocks or just like a business in general?
Either or. Like I assume you probably approach it slightly different in both, but probably still thematically the same.
Yeah, exactly. It's basically projections. You run it out, try to boil it right down. So me and Vanessa did this a few years ago. We had property out in Montreal, Quebec. We had Airbnbs and like everywhere. Like I've had Airbnb in Vancouver, Montreal. I've had lots of Airbnbs in Saskatoon. So to boil it down, you need to figure out what you want to do and where you want to go in life is what I believe. So me and Vanessa, we're very much aligned, and we try to keep our alignment as much as possible. Communication's huge. We sit down, we do our goals, we do a vision board every year. So basically what we did a few years ago that kind of shifted the whole company was we basically had the property in Quebec actually was taking up a lot of my time. I found myself just scattered. I was just doing everything. You can probably relate to that. And we sat down and basically drew a line down a whiteboard and wrote like, what's going to get us where we need to go? What's not taking us where we need to go? So we wrote down like, and all the Airbnbs ended up on the get rid of side of the board. The property.
Do you mind kind of breaking down some of the logic there? Was it just like, oh, these aren't scalable, or there's not a lot of profit, or like, how did you know they were not the right thing to get you where you wanted to go?
So that condo, for example, like I know I'm going to kick myself in 5 years for selling that. Montreal's like, I always say it's like 5 years behind Toronto and Vancouver. Like it's really starting to pick up, and we've already probably left money on the table on that property. But it was the decision that we made at the time, and it was the right decision. So basically that property, it was just, we were Airbnb-ing it. The condo board was cracking down. It was in a building with 100 units. And, you know, with condos, they have a percentage that are able to be rented, and then Airbnbs are okay for a while, and the condo board kind of cracked down on that. So we started getting letters, and we ended up like, actually we would have like Airbnb accounts with like random people's names, like Brett R or something like that. Just so the condo board couldn't actually find out who we were. And then, and it just became too much of a headache. That one, like a little while after that, we were like, we're just going to get rid of this thing. I think we had 100,000 in equity sitting in it. We're like, let's just pull the pin, get rid of it. We'll pull out of Montreal. My wife is from Montreal, so that was the reason we were there. And we'll use that money elsewhere. And eventually we can move back into Montreal. But now that we know the type of properties that we want, we'll go back and we'll get like a fourplex or a sixplex or something like that, where we own the whole property and nobody can tell us what to do with it.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, and then with the Airbnbs too, it was getting to be too much. It's running a hotel. It's not what I want to do. I could build the team out for it, but there's still times you can't get a hold of people, or somebody doesn't answer their phone, and somebody's missing all the towels because the previous tenant stole all the towels, and the cleaners missed it or something like that. And then somebody has to run towels there late at night. So anyways, we ended up pulling the pin on it, all the Airbnbs. I started selling all my furniture. I would offload full, like 3-bedroom houses. Like you could furnish a 3-bedroom house. I put it up on Kijiji, take everything, $800, you move it, and they'd be gone like that. So with the business, we're going all unfurnished long-term rentals and majority apartment blocks. Just everything's under one unit. Or like you can get a lot under one roof. It's just that whole concept. But that's the simplest way to go. And like in my life and Vanessa's life, we're going for simplicity. That's our main thing that we want. We want simplicity, and that's the way to get it, because that's the easiest way you can build a system around long-term unfurnished rentals very easily.
Yeah, I think the real struggle for a lot of investors, particularly maybe in the first 5 years of investing, is just not really even knowing what it is they're trying to accomplish, right? And so a lot of people set out with like making money or getting rich or increasing your net worth, and like all those things can be done with real estate, but they're far too fuzzy, and there's almost too many ways to go about doing it. So I think a lot of investors in their first 5 or 10 years, they really sample a bunch of different strategies often, or distractions, or whatever you want to kind of call it. And then you start to hone in on what your real core focuses are. Yeah,
that's exactly it.
Awesome. And so do you mind sharing with the audience, are there some goals for either like the next year or 2021, or, you know, what's on the horizon for you guys?
Yeah, so we're focusing majority on apartment blocks. We do have the flipping side of the business, and we have a lot of interesting stuff going on with that, but I'm trying to focus mostly on the apartment side of the business. So my goals are still similar to last year. I think we had an interview, and I think it would have been July or something, and I mentioned on here that I wanted 100 doors by the end of the year. And and I didn't get that. But I was like, well, I have to go on, like, I have to do this interview. How am I going to say that to everybody? But I think it's good for people to hear that.
Yeah.
That, like, those were my goals. You don't always hit your goals. Goals are just like, they're there. It's something for you to reach for. So
yeah. And just kind of building upon that for a second, Fraser, I don't know what your experiences are, but like myself and Jeff, literally, I think near the end of 2017, we set out with this goal. We were going to start a corporation. It was going to buy 100 units a year. And after 10 years, we'd have 1,000 units. And it sounds like a great plan. And there was nothing wrong with the plan, but it actually took us a couple years to get started, and we didn't really officially start until 2019. And then in the first year, I think we acquired like 83 units, and then the second year, like it was over 100 units. And so like, I think a lot of people give up, or they're embarrassed because like they didn't hit the very first milestone. But like if you consistently look on a long enough time horizon, it actually does average out and you end up like hitting it. It's just like always in a slightly different way than how you originally intended, or at least that's my experiences.
Yeah, no, that's 100%. That's exactly what I was going to say. That's awesome. And then my original goal, actually at the start of last year, was 250 doors. But then, I know you're not supposed to dial back your goals, but I was like, okay, whatever, more realistically. Like, you still have to look like realistic.
Yeah.
And in my mind, the 100 is attainable. I can do that for sure. Maybe not last year, maybe not this year, but eventually, exactly like you said, I'm going to hit that 100 doors or 250 doors, whatever the number is. But yeah, it's important for people to have goals, and it's, and I think it's good to say it on interviews like this too. It holds you a little bit accountable. And then to touch also on just people giving up after they don't hit that first milestone. Me and Vanessa, we laugh. Like, that's a running joke with us. Like with the flips, we've taken beatings over the years, and even with the rentals, I paid like, my worst rental. I think I overpaid by my calculations of what I know now. In 2013, I bought a property for $375,000. I see houses pop up on that street for like roughly 300,000. And the market is different, obviously, but at the time, I probably should have paid around like 325 maybe for that house. It was a house with the basement suite, and it was all like ready to go. And then we ended up gutting it and gutting the basement, upgrading the basement suite, because we actually lived down there for a while. But yeah, so just don't give up after you take a beating or lose money on a property. Like me and Vanessa, going back to what I just said, like we laugh and we're like, we probably should have quit a long time ago, but it's good that we didn't, because now it got us to where we are. Now we have so much experience, and we know what kind of properties to look for, and we're getting into big properties. Like, we're in Saskatoon, we're selling houses for 620,000. That's like, there's obviously a higher end market than that, but that's a good sweet spot. I don't think I would do flips over that price point, just because of the buyer pool on the back end, but there's still a solid enough buyer pool in our market right around that 600,000 mark from my research anyways. And then this last flip just proved it too. So it proved it to us anyways.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate it, Fraser. If people want to follow along with you on your journey, or they just want to find out more about you and your business, what are the best ways to do so?
You can follow me on Instagram. That's probably the best way. Or you can go to our website, Nybo Estates, www.nyboestates.ca. And then that takes you to the design side and the investment side. So you can find both of us and see what we do.
Awesome. We'll throw a link in the video description down below. And again, great catching up.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Matt.
Thanks again to Fraser for taking the time to shoot this video. If you guys got value from this video, smash that like button, hit subscribe if you're new to my channel, and let us know in the comment section, what else should Fraser and I discuss in future videos? And would you like any building tours from Fraser? Let us know in the comment section down below.